There are rivers in this world that people refuse to enter, not because of what they've seen, but because of what they haven't. The water is dark. Visibility doesn't exist beyond 6 inches. And beneath the surface, in the flooded forests and submerged root systems of the Amazon basin, something moves that has no need to announce itself. It doesn't roar. It doesn't growl. It waits. And when it strikes, there's no scream, only silence, only pressure, only the slow, methodical work of a body designed to collapse rib cages. You know the name. You've seen the movie. You've laughed at the CGI, rolled your eyes at the drama, maybe even dismissed the whole thing as Hollywood nonsense. But before we talk about movies, special effects, or Jennifer Lopez running through the jungle, we need to talk about what this planet has already proven it can create. Because the Anaconda isn't fiction. It's just misunderstood. Let's start where most people start. The 1997 film Anaconda. If you haven't seen it, here's what you need to know. A documentary film crew ventures into the Amazon rainforest, searching for a lost indigenous tribe called the Shirishamas. Along the way, they encounter a snake hunter named Paul Cerrone, played by Jon Voight, who's obsessed with capturing a legendary anaconda. Not just any anaconda, a monster, somewhere between 30 and 40 feet long, intelligent, territorial, relentless. The snake in the movie doesn't just hunt, it stalks. It seems to understand human behavior, anticipate movements, and toy with its prey. It's depicted as an apex predator with an almost supernatural awareness. Now, here's the thing most people miss when they watch that film. Hollywood didn't make up the fear. They borrowed it. The Amazon has always had legends of giant serpents. The indigenous peoples of the region speak of Yakumama, the mother of the water, a massive serpent that lives in the deepest rivers and swallows entire boats. In some versions of the story, it's 60 feet long. In others, it has the head of a bull or the ability to create whirlpools. The 1997 movie didn't invent the terror of a giant snake in the jungle. It just put it on a screen and gave it a face. But the question we're here to answer today isn't whether the movie was realistic. It's whether the planet has ever made something close. And the answer is more disturbing than you think. Let's talk about what we know for certain. Forrest Galante, wildlife biologist, extinction specialist, and one of the few people on Earth who has swum alongside wild anacondas in their natural habitat. Not in a zoo, not in a controlled environment. In the murky, zero-visibility rivers of South America, where these animals live, hunt, and grow to sizes that make even experienced researchers hesitate. Galante has documented anacondas over 20 feet long. Not estimated, documented. These are animals weighing hundreds of pounds, so thick around the midsection that a grown man's arms couldn't wrap around them. And here's the part that should terrify you. Even when these snakes are secured for research, they remain dangerous. Constriction isn't something they turn off. It's autonomic, instinctive. You get too close to the wrong section of their body, and your ribs are in a hydraulic press before you even realize what's happening. These aren't the kind of animals you wrestle. You respect them, you measure them carefully, and you get out of the water. Now, Galante's work isn't just about size. It's about understanding an apex predator that has existed in these river systems for millions of years. The anaconda is a relic, a living example of what evolution does when it has endless water, endless prey, and no natural predators. And the locals? They don't laugh at the idea of giant snakes. They live with the knowledge that the biggest ones are never seen, because the biggest ones don't need to surface, they don't need to bask. They simply exist in the depths, feeding, growing, disappearing into the endless labyrinth of flooded forest. One thing Galante emphasizes in his research, Yakumama isn't just folklore. It's the cultural memory of an animal that exceeds normal expectations. And when a culture that has lived alongside these rivers for thousands of years tells you something is down there, you listen. Now, let's talk about the anaconda that changed everything. Her name is Ana Julia. Discovered in the Ecuadorian Amazon, Ana Julia measured approximately 20.7 feet long and weighed an estimated 441 pounds. She is one of the largest green anacondas ever scientifically verified in the wild. Not in captivity. Not in a zoo where feeding schedules and controlled environments might inflate size. In the wild, fully natural, fully untouched. Ana Julia was documented by a team of researchers using non-lethal methods, tissue samples for age analysis, photographic evidence, and careful measurements conducted in situ. She was then released back into her habitat, alive and unharmed. Why does Ana Julia matter? Because she represents the floor, not the ceiling. She tells us what has been scientifically confirmed. She proves that 20-foot anacondas weighing nearly half a ton are not mythological. They are real, they are wild, and they are thriving in environments we barely understand. But here's the critical pivot. Ana Julia also tells us what is possible. If a snake this size can exist in an area that researchers were able to access, document, and study, what exists in the areas they can't reach? What lives in the rivers too remote, too dangerous, or too deep to ever be measured? Here's the uncomfortable truth about anaconda research. The largest individuals are almost never measured. Why? Because they live in places humans don't go. They inhabit sections of the Amazon where the water is so dark, so deep, and so tangled with submerged vegetation that even modern equipment struggles to penetrate. Anacondas are aquatic. They don't bask for hours like crocodiles. They don't haul out onto riverbanks to sun themselves. They stay submerged, sometimes for weeks, surfacing only to breathe and then vanishing again into the blackness. And the biggest anacondas? The old females that have been alive for 20, 30, maybe 40 years, they are the ghosts of the river. There's also a measurement bias in wildlife research. Scientists can only document what they can access. Remote tributaries, seasonal floodplains, unexplored oxbow lakes, these are the places where the true giants likely live. But funding, logistics, and sheer danger make comprehensive surveys nearly impossible. So, when someone tells you the largest anaconda ever recorded was 20 feet, what they're really saying is, the largest anaconda we were able to record was 20 feet. There's a difference, a big one. This is why anecdotal reports persist. Locals, hunters, and indigenous guides report anacondas of 25, 30, even 35 feet. Are all of these reports accurate? Probably not. Estimating size in water, in dim light, under stress, it's unreliable. But dismissing all of them? That's just as reckless. Because the biggest animals leave the fewest records. Now we need to go back. Way back. Not decades, not centuries, millions of years. Because if you want to understand why a 40-foot snake isn't impossible, you need to understand what this planet has already done. Let's talk about the Carboniferous period, roughly 360 to 300 million years ago. This was a time when Earth's atmosphere had significantly more oxygen than it does today. Some estimates put atmospheric oxygen levels at 35%, compared to the 21% we breathe now. And when you flood an ecosystem with oxygen, life doesn't just survive, it explodes. Insects grew to nightmarish sizes. Dragonflies with 2.5-foot wingspans, millipedes 8 feet long, crawling through primordial swamps like biological freight trains. Amphibians became apex predators, Creatures like Prionosuchus, a crocodile-like amphibian that reached 30 feet in length, dominated river systems. The environment didn't just allow gigantism, it rewarded it. Fast forward to the age of dinosaurs, the Mesozoic era. The planet was hotter, wetter. Vast swamps and floodplains covered continents, and reptiles thrived in ways we can barely comprehend today. Why? Because reptiles are efficient. They don't waste energy regulating body temperature like mammals do. They grow throughout their entire lives. And in an environment with abundant food, warm climates, and no competition, there's no biological reason to stop growing. The takeaway here is simple. The environment sets the ceiling for size. And Earth has repeatedly created environments where that ceiling was very, very high. Snakes didn't start small. They started specialized. The earliest snakes appeared during the late Jurassic or early Cretaceous period somewhere around 150 million years ago, and from the very beginning, many of them were constrictors, not venomous, not quick-strike predators. Constrictors, built to grab, coil, and crush, and many of them were semi-aquatic. Why does this matter? Because it means snakes didn't evolve into water, they evolved with it. The blueprint for a massive river-dwelling constrictor has been part of snake DNA for over 100 million years. During the Cretaceous, reptiles ruled the planet. Crocodilians reached lengths of 40 feet. Marine reptiles like mosasaurs grew even larger. And in this world of giants, snakes weren't just surviving, they were competing. They developed flexible jaws to swallow prey whole. They perfected the art of ambush hunting. They became patient, invisible, and devastatingly efficient. And then, 66 million years ago, the asteroid hit. The dinosaurs died. The giant marine reptiles died. But snakes? Snakes survived. And in the aftermath, in the warm, wet, recovering ecosystems of South America, they found a paradise. No large mammalian predators yet, no competition from dinosaurs, just endless rivers, endless prey, and endless time to grow. Let me introduce you to Titanoboa cerrejonensis. Discovered in the Cerrejón coal mines of Colombia, Titanoboa is the largest snake ever found in the fossil record, 42 to 45 feet long, over 2,500 pounds. A constrictor so massive that it could swallow crocodiles whole. Titanoboa lived approximately 60 million years ago, just after the extinction of the dinosaurs. The world was hotter, much hotter. Average temperatures in the region were around 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and the landscape was a vast, tropical swamp. It was the perfect environment for a cold-blooded giant. Now, here's what you need to understand. Titanoboa isn't speculation. It's not a legend, not a myth, not a maybe. It's memory written in bone. The fossil evidence is overwhelming. Vertebrae the size of dinner plates, a skull structure indicating crushing power that could snap a human torso like a twig. And here's the part that should haunt you. Titanoboa didn't go extinct because it couldn't survive. It went extinct because the climate changed. The world cooled. The swamps shrank. But the blueprint, the biological potential for a snake of that size, that never went away. It's still written into the DNA of every modern boa and anaconda on the planet. All it would take is the right environment, the right prey base, the right amount of time. And the Amazon? The Amazon is still the right environment. Let's bring this back to the present. The Amazon basin is one of the oldest and most stable ecosystems on Earth. While glaciers advanced and retreated across the northern hemisphere, while deserts expanded and forests collapsed, the Amazon endured. It didn't freeze. It didn't dry out. It stayed wet. And in that wetness, life continued, unchanged, uninterrupted. The floodplains where Titanoboa once hunted, They still exist. The river systems where 40-foot constrictors ambushed prehistoric crocodiles, still there. They haven't disappeared. They've only shrunk and fragmented. But fragments of Eden are still Eden. The Congo Basin in Africa has similar characteristics. Remote river systems in Southeast Asia show the same patterns. These are places where megafauna still exists, places where animals grow larger, live longer, and remain hidden from human eyes. And if any place on this planet could still harbor an outlier, a genetic throwback, an unusually old female, a snake that grew in isolation for decades in a food-rich tributary, it would look exactly like this. Dark water, endless forest, no roads, no witnesses, just time and pressure and hunger. So, let's be clear about what we're saying here. We're not claiming that 40-foot anacondas are casually swimming through the Amazon, waiting to be discovered on every expedition. We're not saying the movie Anaconda was a documentary. What we are saying is this: the upper limit is unknown. Ana Julia proved that 20-foot, 400-pound anacondas are real. Titanoboa proved that nature has already built snakes twice that size. And the Amazon, the Congo, and other remote river systems remain some of the least explored ecosystems on the planet. The locals speak of giants. The researchers admit the biggest ones are never measured, and the fossil record screams one undeniable truth: this planet has done it before. So, here's the real horror. It's not the size, it's the silence. The movie made the anaconda visible. It gave it a roar, a presence, a face. Real giants don't need any of that. They only need enough water and enough time. If you've made it this far, drop the word anaconda in the comments. Let's see how many of you are brave enough to admit you're thinking about this the next time you see dark water. And if you'd like to support the channel, I've opened a small YouTube membership. There's never any pressure, just being here means more than you know. And if you want more deep dives into the creatures that actually exist on this planet, the ones hiding in the forests, the rivers, the places we've forgotten to look, make sure you like this video, subscribe to The Silent Scream, and hit that notification bell, because we're just getting started. What do you believe? Are there still giants out there, waiting in the deep? Or have we mapped every inch of horror this world has to offer? Let me know in the comments. And remember, some questions are better left unanswered. Until next time, stay curious and stay out of the water.